Welcome to FSHD Straight Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into living with FSHD. I'm your host, Tim Hollenback, and I'm on the journey with you. Having FSHD, I understand the challenges it brings to patients and their families. We're in this together, and this podcast is a space where we swap stories, share advice, and talk to experts to get the latest news. There's plenty to say about living with FSH muscular dystrophy, so let's get straight to it. Welcome to the FSHD, not the FSHD Society radio show. No. This is FSHD Straight Talk. As you listen to the new intro, as the episodes are rolling out here in 2024, beginning of the quarter here, we're changing the way we do the show. We're highlighting people from around the world that have FSHD, and we'll talk about the science too. We'll talk about the research, of course, but we really want to hear from the patients and the families and the impact within the community. The show is really about the people. The straight talk right to it, hence the title, FSH Straight Talk. So I'm your host, Tim, as you may have heard in the pre-recorded intro, but this is me, and happy to be here as we bring in one of our sought-after guests who's been with the FSHD Society as an impact player out in San Diego, California. He's done some work there. We're going to venture that direction. We're going to venture multiple different directions within this conversation as we welcome in Callum Arras. Hey, Callum. How are you doing?
Hey, Tim. Wow, I thought I was getting booked for the FSHD radio podcast, but I guess a bit of a curveball, huh?
I know, right? And it's like, I almost want to hit like some type of back in the day when people used to listen to music. Well, I guess they listen to music on records now too more. But when you hit the needle, kind of that scratch, like, wait, no, we're doing this. Yeah, it's we're doing a little bit of a revamp, a little bit of a refresh. I think marketing people call it a rebrand. I'm excited because this is really the part of the show I always loved the most. I'm fine with science and all that and science people and this and this, but I'm not a real smart guy. And sometimes, most of the time, it would be over my head and I got to look up a lot of stuff with big words. And I'm like, man, you know what? It'd be great if I could just talk to more people that have this wretched disease and are living through it regardless, and the kind of heroes of courage overcoming things and adapting. And to me, that I find amazingly interesting because that's kind of what I have to do to some degree throughout my life. I have it too. And I think more people want to hear from people like that. Mm-hmm. And I think the great people at the FSHD Society, see that. And I think from a listener standpoint, I think more listeners, it happens when we get those kind of guests on, like, hey, more people tune in. So no pressure here, Callum, but now those that are watching, you are just looking at me, which is fine because Callum's having kind of a nice relaxing day, and we caught him on that relaxing day, which is great for me. And because, then people are in the mood to talk a little bit and spend some time. And so if you're looking for him on the video, he's not there. That's okay. We're doing this old school radio style, which I love. We talked about that before we hit record. And you're coming from us from Southern California. We're down in like San Diego, right?
Yeah, not so sunny San Diego right now. We're anticipating some more rain coming, those California storms. But usually sunny San Diego is where I'm calling out of. I'm a participant in the San Diego FSHD chapter. If you do want to see me, I am on camera. My good friend, Jared Jacobson, he's a filmmaker. He's filmed a few of our walk and roll. He was the director of the Amy's, I forget the name off the top of my head.
Her documentary,
the Reinventor, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Great. He helped do a little, highlight of the walk and roll. So he me being his good friend, he just threw me right on the thumbnail. So if you look up the San Diego Walk and Roll 2023,
it's you.
There. Yep. But
I know that they'll put a headshot of you or something. So look out. I don't know which one the side he's going to choose, but yeah, I'm just giving you a warning.
Yeah, I'm enjoying my President's Day, so I'm fortunate to have it off. But Tim's on the clock here, so thanks for having me on the show, Tim. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to have you on. So you have FSH, and that's where I love to start with our guests and kind of give us that backstory. Before we hit record, I was kind of locked in when you were talking about it. I was like, whoa, wait, we got to hit record. This is juicy. This is good. Let's not Like, let's like save that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Mhm.
talk to us about that. Talk to us about like when it all kind of started for you, when you realized something was up.
Yeah, well, Tim was asking me how I met Amy, so I was already going down the rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
the so the first time I really ever was exposed to the sort of the disease FSHD was I was in sixth grade, I think. I was in my early teens. I was on the basketball court, and kids were how do you split up the teams? We went shirts and skins, and I went
Mm.
skins, right? So we're playing on the court, and I'm dribbling the ball. I'm kind of backing into a defender. One of my friends he's trying to guard me, so he's kind of leaned over me, and I'm backing into him, and he's like, "Ow, bro! Like, ow, your shoulder blades are so pointy," and I'm like, oh, whatever,
What? Yeah.
dunk on him, right? But after the game, I'm like, "What do you mean my shoulder blades are pointy?" He's like, "Yeah, they kind of like stick out kind of far." And I was like, "Huh, well, all right." Kids can be pretty, observant when they're young. They just like, "Hey, you look different," right?
Right.
So I go home. I think I asked my mom, like, "Hey, yeah, is this normal?" And she's like, I don't know. Let's go ask our pediatrician. So the next time I'm in the doctor's office, we ask about it. And for whatever reason, they referred me to a neurologist. I don't know exactly why they chose to do that, because you think with bones and stuff, you might go to some bone doctor or some other maybe a
Right.
physical trainer or something. But I was fortunate that they sent me to a neurologist, because I think right away they knew that scapular winging is one of the hallmarks of FSHD. So they kind of put those pieces together, and I feel pretty fortunate that I was able to get that diagnosis with basically no counter like indications. They weren't like, "Oh, it could be this, it could be that." They're like, "No, that's probably FSHD."
Hmm.
So I kind of grew up from then on knowing that I had this sort of invisible disease, and waiting for the shoe to drop, so to speak. I didn't really, as a kid, you don't really know like how it's going to progress, and you don't really have much of a cause for concern, because everything's gravy until
Yeah.
it's not.
Right. Right. And you said you were what, about sixth grade
I
when
think, yeah, it's about
somewhere in there?
sixth grade, so pretty early teens. But that about other than that scapular winging, I was able to do anything else I wanted to.
Hmm.
I'm an Eagle Scout, so I was
Hmm.
doing like Boy Scout stuff for my till I was 18, right? And then you age out of Boy
Yep.
Scouts. And then I did soccer, a little bit of football. So I was a pretty active kid. My hobby's always been gaming though, so like,
Okay. Yeah.
unfortunately, I still do my hobby. If there's any
That's
gamers
cool.
out on the podcast, I think I joined the FSH Society like Discord group. I don't know how I
Oh,
got
nice.
into that, but I think you'll be able to look me up there. But yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The the fact that, yeah, that you were so athletic, right? You did a lot of different things. Eagle Scout, I can totally relate to that. My brother was an Eagle Scout. I stopped at Star. That was it, man. I was
Oh,
like,
so close, man.
forget
Just
this.
two
So
more
close.
life, and then
Yeah,
you're there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had such an attitude problem though. I was my own worst enemy. And then you got your older brother you're trying to be compared to. I'm like, okay, like whatever. I was
Yeah, yeah.
I was a Boy Scout with like, never had the uniform buttoned, and I had like my Iron Maiden shirt underneath that everybody made sure everybody could see,
Oh, heck
like
yeah.
rock band. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'm totally like trying to rebel this. I mean, I did
Oh,
fine, but I
no,
can relate to the life. Like, it takes a lot of commitment to get to Eagle Scout.
it was really the family, like my dad. I credit him immensely to just help, because the biggest hurdle for getting to that Eagle Scout rank is the Eagle Scout project.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, everybody in the troop sort of rallies around you, but you need that person kind of pushing you on, because yeah,
Mm.
I feel that rebel angst, when you're a teenager.
You're like,
But
forget this. Yeah.
I feel really grateful that they let me do that, because
That's
then I
good.
get to go tell people I'm an Eagle Scout. And it's funny, you mentioned Iron Maiden. My
Mm.
favorite genre by far is metal and heavy metal. So
Really?
I'm going. I just saw, well, it's not metal, but I saw Ween with my buddy
Oh yeah. I mean,
yesterday in Del Mar, and it was really cool. But
wow.
I go to the heaviest shows, man. It's
Huh.
I and
That's wild.
it's relevant to this conversation because you think of a metal show, what do you think of? Like from a concert
Well,
perspective,
headbangers. I mean, come on, bro. No
you
long
think
hair.
of the mosh pit,
Oh, the
people just
mosh
like
pit.
running around, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's become my biggest stressor from,
Yeah.
having FSHD now. I always have to be like, and anyone who has
How
the
do you get in
disease.
there? Are you getting in that mosh pit?
Well, it depends on the show. If it's
Okay.
a band like Gojira or Mastodon, which are,
Yeah.
some of my favorites,
Yeah.
I want to be as close as I can be. They're my favorite bands. I want to be right up front.
But
The
that's
the
where the
trick
pit is.
for me, yeah, the pit comes right up onto it. But if I can get myself to the front rail, I've got
Mhm.
a bracer there, so I'm good.
Oh yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
tough guy. If they want to slam into my back, I'm
Ah,
not gonna go sprawling onto the floor. But if
yeah.
I was in anywhere else, I'd need like an anchor, maybe a big friend, and just kind of.
Yeah.
But you got to be That's the thing about FSHD. You got to be really planning things. You got to make sure that
Yes.
you're not too serendipitous because that leads to issues.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The fact that you even say that. I mean, it's even as basic as like for me getting up off the floor. I can't play with my dog or something. I'm like, okay, now how do I get up out of here?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
where's
yeah,
the nearest chair? I need to like
yeah,
crawl
yeah,
out of
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I slide out of the chair, all cool like, and then okay, I got to get in this position to get up. Okay, I'm good. At least I can still do that. And
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. You have to like think ahead. You have to plan. Okay, I need this. Wait, what if I get in this situation? So I get it.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
least you can still experience what you love. You're still seeing the bands you love and getting in it. You're not from the outside peripheral. You're not missing out. At least it feels like it.
100%. Yeah. And it's honestly coming to terms with the disease. The more you talk about it, the easier it gets. The more that you're willing to ask for somebody's help, the easier it becomes. When you first figure out you can't do something, it's a little devastating because you're like, wow, does that mean I have to stop doing it? You
Mm.
know? But then you realize I've got my awesome girlfriend Hannah. She helps me through so many different things that I don't think I can do, and she's encouraging me. She helps me. She's sort of like a patsy. She goes out there and says what I'm too embarrassed to say, and then it makes it so much easier, right?
Yeah.
So there's ADA services anywhere you look, and just being willing to accept that help, it gets easier, and then you realize, oh, it's worth it too.
So when you're moving through life, talking about when you were younger, did the sports, gaming life, you love that as a hobby. Obviously, you still do that.
Yeah.
Where are you now? I'm gonna be straight up. Like, how old are you now, Callum?
Yeah, so I just celebrated my 30th and
Okay.
7th. So
Nice. Happy
especially
birthday.
30. Yeah. By 20s, hello 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Haha.
Thanks, Tim. I know. How many how many more birthdays are at there? No. The Yeah, I'm 30. I'm still pretty ambulatory. Like I don't use a cane. Sometimes I think if I were to fall in like a empty parking lot,
Mm,
I'd probably have to roll or crawl my way to some sort of like something to get myself up. Like
right.
flat ground is almost one of the scariest things because you're like,
Oh,
well, if my legs aren't under me, then I'm crawling.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So like back in the day, I don't know this. I did this when I was a kid, right? You roll down the hill, right? Get to the top and roll down. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
skill, that's actually a skill we were all developing. Like this is how you roll yourself to a place where you can get up. That's kind of crazy, right?
It's interesting. Yeah, yeah. You kind of like relearn how to crawl and roll and get yourself there. Army crawl works maybe a little bit
Mm,
too. For me, it's like when you're on your hands and your knees, your knees are getting kind of brutalized.
yeah.
So you don't necessarily want to do that. You can do like butt scoot and stuff. But
Yeah. Now,
thankfully, I trip maybe once every 2 months, 3 months. It's
okay.
really when I'm not being careful or I'm rushing or I've done something really fatiguing that, the foot drop kind of comes into
Drop.
play.
Yeah.
Stairs and elevation can be tough.
Mhm.
I used when I was going to community college in Santa Barbara, pretty hilly kind of city. The college is on the top of a hill. I'd be like running up those stairs, and now I'm like, all right, I need to figure out like the upper parking lot or an elevator or something just to make sure I can plan my route. That's huge for me. So that
Yeah.
if nothing else kind of gives you a snapshot of where I am sort of physically, is like I need to be able to plan where I'm going, but as long as I know it's not like too difficult, then I'm doing it, you know.
Then you might as well. What does that mean then with what you do for work? What is your career? What line of work are you in?
Yeah, so I feel pretty privileged that I get to kind of work in the same realm of my disease. When I was so I have a degree in human biology from UCSD, and that's actually how I got involved with the FSH Society. But before I get there, I went into a lab called Genea Biocells. They were doing drug screening for FSHD among other muscular dystrophies. And unfortunately, Genea Biocells, they couldn't reacquire funding, like kind of like a startup mentality. You don't get funding, you're kind of SOL. And so the whole lab sort of had to get, sold off. So most of the people lost their jobs. I think the IP is still out there in some way, shape, or form, and maybe hopefully better hands. But that made me pivot into quality. So any biotech or pharmaceutical, there's a department called quality, and they're making sure that what the business is doing it in a way that's compliant with regulation, so that the FDA doesn't come and like shut you down. That's a huge risk. So
Gotcha.
You don't want to be creating any sort of like aspirin in like a home cooker, like a crock pot, right? Because somebody could get sick, and so the FDA is coming from a consumer perspective. So what I'm doing is I'm now a senior quality engineer at a company called Insmed. I hope I can name drop them, but
sure.
They're working on gene therapies right now for, amongst other things, Duchenne's and ALS. So I'm hopefully in a position where as we mature these potential therapies, they start looking for the next target. I'd be like, oh, FSHD,
Yeah.
But so I get to be at least peripherally involved in therapies for muscular dystrophies right now. And I make sure my job in the nutshell right now is specific to software, and I make sure that the software that we're using has been fully validated and tested, that we are confident that it's not going to introduce any risk or errors as part of our manufacturing process.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, that's exciting. The fact that, you're working in the world that could directly affect a push to some treatment or cure, possibly, right, in the future.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, do you see things as hopeful, or kind of more just kind of plateaued right now, or on the downside?
I immediately think of Mark Stone when you ask that question, because he gives probably the best answer I've heard out of anybody as far as I'm an optimist, and I'm very hopeful because in just the span of my career, about 10 years in the industry, I've seen a lot of progress. Like there's so many. The thing about science is it's so cooperative in a lot of ways. The landmark like technologies that are being developed in one area can be applied in other areas. Like we're even leveraging AI in our business and how we are. So the first job out of college, for example, drug screening company. What that means is we're using basically public institutions' research data. They say like there might be a 10% chance that this drug gives a marginal improvement for this disease, right? We're like, okay, that's a candidate for drug screening. What we do is we have already modeled, muscular dystrophy in a petri dish, more or less, right?
Okay.
So we've got these disease-affected cells on a petri dish. Now we're going to put this drug that we think could have some sort of positive effect on that disease, and then we're going to see how it progresses. So we're going to see, does it improve it? Does it make it worse? Let's find out. Now, well, back in the day, that took days and days. Like my weekends, I didn't have weekends because I'd have to come in, I'd have to passage the cells, I'd have to feed them. Like, so basically in a petri dish, Yeah, you know, you got to come in, you got to slurp off all the bad juice, add the fresh juice, and then the cells are happy again, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That still
Huh.
is more or
No
less
idea that
needed.
exists.
But
Yeah.
what takes a huge burden out is that now we can use AI to say, okay, let's look at the data set of all these different drugs. Now the AI is going to say, okay, I'm looking for this type of drug, and now I'm going to propose candidates in fractions of a second, like
Mm.
30 other viable options. This amino acid has one change to it that might make it more effective. Let's try that one too. So instead of just guessing more or less, now we can make educated guesses in so much quicker time. That's going to cause compounding, positive effects on the landscape. So yeah, in another 10 years, I'm
Mm.
pretty sure we'll have viable therapy options for
Wow.
FSHD. So if we're not halting the disease altogether, we're going to be able to slow it. We're going to be able
Mhm.
to add some sort of treatment. And hopefully that coupled with maybe muscle regeneration therapies, we can maybe start to restore quality of life to people.
Wow.
What I like to think though is I'm young, right? I've just turned 30. I've got people like Amy and, her friends that are, much they work so hard for us as patients. Like it brings tears to my eyes at how motivated they are because they aren't necessarily going to receive the benefits of their work. They're
Yeah.
going to benefit, my generation and people younger than me, that's why I feel like I need to come out and talk too.
Wow. That is
It's,
impactful, right? I mean, to
yeah.
have somebody like that working in our corner that knows full well that this might not land in the right time for them, but for the
Mhm.
next generations, that is selfless.
Yeah, it chokes me up, like kids. So when kids are born and they get that FSHD diagnosis, if I'd gotten it when I was playing hoops on the basketball court,
Yeah.
that's probably gonna not get, like I'm not gonna have FSHD as an adult because they've treated it as a kid. So
Right.
if I
Yeah.
can if I can pass that torch on, I could, the next generation is gonna be in a good spot.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
a nice positive way of seeing it. I know that some are, feeling the negativity creep in because like, why isn't it here yet? Yeah, we're making these leaps and bounds, but we're running out of time. And it's all true. There's not necessarily something wrong to feel that way, but it doesn't change where we are. If we go
Hmm.
too negative, it doesn't all of a sudden, oh, that's enough negativity to make this all go away. That
Yeah.
doesn't exist, right? So you're right. To be on the other side of it, at least the life we're in is the best we can live with what we have and what we're able to do. It sounds like you're one of those people that is exactly doing that. You're taking what you have and hey, I can do this, still going to your shows, still doing the things you want to do. And making an impact in your profession is huge. That's definitely something more than most have the opportunity of doing. So the fact that you're able to take the skills and the gifts that you have and kind of put them back into our community, thank you for doing that. Even for you, Callum, it helps us as a whole. I mean, you could have probably found maybe a different job, right? That has nothing to do with these types of things, and say,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could have been a historian. I love history.
right,
I just cruising Wikipedia and stuff. But no, that was really well said, Tim. And thanks for the compliment. Like we all do what we can. Like you've
right.
got a voice for radio, and you're on
Yeah, I
video, so
definitely have
also
a
a face
face for
for it.
video too. I do. I
Yeah,
do. You
yeah,
you
yeah.
can
You
totally say
do.
I do.
So yeah, we all do what we can, and I think we all find our niche too.
I do. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And uh, so you kind of brought up, bringing up Amy a little bit, and then of
Mhm.
course you guys got connected geographically. You're close together, but how did you kind of tie in and then working with that San Diego chapter?
Yeah, so going back to my college days, like a good soon to be graduate of college, I'm thinking, all right, where am I going to get a job? How do
Mhm.
I, go about
Making money, right?
advancing my own
Yeah,
career? Yeah.
right.
Um, I knew it. I think I took advantage of my student health plan, and I got officially diagnosed with FSHD. Genetic test from Athena. So I knew that was going to be something in my life, and at that point, and kind of my end of college career, there's my right arm is like like different muscle sets have sort of atrophied, right?
Yeah.
You don't always see it right away, but like you could tell if, hey, Callum, catch, oh, what was fumbling, whatever. So I knew FSHD is going to be a part of my life. So I'm thinking, how do I get involved? And, I knew from the scouts and from other, volunteer activities, it goes a long way to building a network, but also having that background and, advocacy and stuff. And I thought I could use that to help advance my own career. So, excuse me, I met with an awesome scientist. Her name is Amanda Ricard. She was working at Janae at the time, and she was very involved with the San Diego sort of budding sort of chapter here. Amy, in a lot of ways, is the chapter because of how awesome she is at outreach and whatnot. But Amanda was close with her at the early days, and she worked at Janaea. So Amanda worked at Janaea. I reach out to Amanda and I'm like, hey, can you kind of share a little bit of your thoughts? And Amanda, again, she's so generous with her time. She's really one of those model scientists, somebody that knows their stuff, but also is willing to, extracurricularly be involved in science and being involved in that. So, she gave me lunch a few times as a, starving college student. And she, we were talking over it, and that one thing led to another. And I was able to sort of get a really entry-level job at the Janaea Biocells. And in tandem with that, I was also sort of reaching out with Amy and like, hey, Amy, like, I'm a new, fresh, young college student. Is there any way I can get involved with your San Diego chapter? And I think she'd recently sort of divested from the LA chapter, which she'd been a big part of. And so she was maybe taking a well-earned break, or, just kind of laying off the pedal, so to speak. And I think she was then inspired again to restart the San Diego chapter. And I was like, hey, I'll try my best to help out.
Yeah.
And we talked about the walk and roll. So that's a big driver of not only engagement, but it advances our mission as the FSH Society. I say our because I try to be a volunteer as much as I can. So it's our team, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, and we'd found that we've since had the walk and roll at a beautiful park in Harbor Island, I believe. I always confuse Harbor and Shelter Island, but it's in the center of San Diego, right on the water. You can see the backdrop of the downtown San Diego. But then COVID hit the first year. And thanks to Tim here, because he basically hosted our walk and roll. He's the one-man walker. It was great. But
that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. But Amy's been the rock, so to speak. And I've had so many, we've gone to breweries together with the San Diego chapter. She's hosted us at her home. We've gone to the Avidity Biosciences a few times. Just a great way to just kind of see your patient community. If anybody has a local chapter near them, I'd strongly recommend just exploring it, because it's not just the patients, it's the patients and their families. They have so much knowledge. Tom Ryba in our community, he says, get that AFO, that ankle foot orthopedic. Like, and it took me forever to remember the clinic. He's like, I'm gonna smack you on the head if you don't remember it. It's Hanger Clinic, and I still haven't gone, Tom.
You still haven't gone? Oh.
Well, I've got a trip planned to Asia in April, and that's going to be my litmus test, so to speak. Yeah. I'm going to see how well I handle it. If I'm falling over myself all over Asia, then maybe when I get home, I'll invest in that AFO.
I'll definitely tell you, it's an adjustment. I've been to a Hanger Clinic over in my neck of the woods here in Milwaukee. Nothing but positive things to say with the team I dealt with there to get my AFO on my left foot. And but I hate those kinds of things. So yeah, I'm like you. I avoided it as long as I could until you're stumbling maybe too much, or you're realizing, man, I don't have the movement like I did. So for me, mine helps. It offers other issues, unfortunately, and then they gave me a different one that works a little better now. So you have patience with it when and if you decide to get one. that the first one that they choose for you might not be the one. Like you might want to find one that, oh, maybe I need a little more flexibility, or maybe I need one more rigid or whatever. I did that at my hanger clinic too. They set me up on a better one than the first, and I'm still able to somewhat, I mean, I coach baseball a lot, and
Nice.
every age from kids from 8 years old all the way to 17 really, and sometimes you have to be more mobile than other age groups, and it does help. It does help do the things that I need it to do to keep me on my feet instead of sitting more and stuff. So that's my 2 cents with the whole AFO thing. So
No,
I'm
no,
I'm not going to smack you on the head, but I totally agree. Like with your process of like push it, take it as long as you need for it. That's my attitude too. Like I did not want to do it right away for a long time, and even now
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have it on now. If I know I'm going to be more active, I'll put it on. If not, I'm like, because like I said, it offers some of its limitations or hurts your foot, or there's other little things obviously, because that's just how life is. It has a reaction to it. So anyway, that's kind of it's kind of
No, you're exactly right. And I think that's one of the things I've also learned in talking about these sorts of things is like, yeah, my pride, it gets in the way of me like helping myself, right? I'm like, I got
yeah,
this, toxic masculinity, whatever. But
yeah.
for Tom, it was sort of like he'll sing its praises. He says it was like it gave him back his confidence, and like, the foot drop is not an issue. Boom. It's like he loves it. And then like you said, it's like for that, it sounds like healthcare. You're describing healthcare, that you go to the doctor, hey, it could be this, it could be that, and then
Yeah,
you take some medicine, you feel maybe okay, and then you go
yeah,
back. So
yeah,
sometimes you get lucky, but I think for anybody listening, like just maybe exploring that a little bit and giving it a try. What's the worst that could happen? It
yeah.
could
True.
it could change it big time.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I'll still like avoid power equipment as long as possible. And I work at a nonprofit. We give people medical equipment for free that can't afford it or just need it for a short term. And power equipment, I'm talking like power wheelchairs that are, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. And I see the equipment, it's in good condition. And my boss will be like, well, can you make sure that one works? I'll be like, yeah, I guess. So I sit in it, make it move around. I'm like, I don't want to be in this thing too long, because this feels like if this is my
Yeah.
future, the future is not now. I want to, there's nothing wrong with when I need it to use it, but I want to prolong that as long as I can. Because
That's
to me,
true.
it opens doors, but it also closes some. And I'm not willing to go to that spot yet, because as long as I can keep walking my dog, or like I said, coaching, doing the things I can. And I think that's the advice really for everybody. And you've kind of talked about that too here. It's like, yeah, we all know we have to do the adaptions in some point, or plan, or, think ahead. We all kind of work through it in our own way, which kind of leads me then to one of my last questions. I love to ask people this one. Is like, and you're 30 years old, you just turned 30. So you're a younger man than myself. Yeah, I'm 48. So um at this stage of your life, and if you're sitting across from somebody that reaches out to you and says, I was just diagnosed with this FSH thing. And they're like, Callum, I know you have it. Like, what's your advice? Like what should I do with this? Because some people, it can be really shocking, right? Especially, I think, like for me, I got diagnosed at 40, not as a younger person. And even though I was the exact same person when I walked into the doctor's office as I left, like physically, like it's not all of a sudden like something fell off or I couldn't walk, or it wasn't like that. It was the same. But for some, but knowledge, it carried some grief that I was not expecting, and this and that, and more worry or anxiety. So, I would have loved to have someone like you where I could have like called and said, dude, I know you have this. How should I be attacking this thing? So what's like your advice for those people that maybe just got diagnosed?
I would say like you're gonna see and you're gonna hear and you're gonna read about all the different things that FSHD can become and what it does to people. And you're gonna be asking yourself, well, I'm at X state right now. I feel great or I don't feel so hot, or I'm worried. In any case, FSHD slowly, it's a progressive disease, and that's something you do have to just come to terms with, right?
Right.
And for some people, that's well, it's in the future, I'm okay with it. Or
Mm.
some people will need to sort of plan out their future and maybe they get pretty torn up or worried about it. My advice is that, life happens. We're always going to be dealt a different set of cards for each hand, so to speak, right? So we're all going to be at different physicalities, different situations, and, just circumstances of life. You
Mm.
can't control those things, Stoicism, I don't know how strong of a stoic I am, but there's a quote by like Marcus Aurelius, right? It's
Mm.
like, all this flesh and blood and sinew that we are is not that's not us. It's the soul. It's our ability to, it's our willpower. Stoicism is always talk about willpower. I think stoicism is great, but what I for anybody, and I'm not a big like philosopher or anything, but that willpower is key. You're capable of doing more than you think you can.
Mm.
So my advice is to do all that you can now, because you can't change the future, you can't change the past, but you can say yes to maybe something that you're worried about now. Like, oh, my buddy is inviting me for a ski trip up to, Mammoth. I'm not going to do that now at 30, but at 20, I wish I could have just done that more to experience that then.
Mm.
So my advice to anyone out there is to, you don't know what the future is going to hold, but you kind of know your limits now, and just
Yeah.
try to experience all that you can now, because it'll make you just a more well-rounded person, but it'll also give you that confidence that you've done. Don't live with regret.
Yeah.
So
Go
that's
for
my
it.
advice. Yeah.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. I'd love this whole conversation. We'll have to have you back on again and kind of see where you're at. Let's, down the line, and maybe that'll be when that cure comes. I don't know, or treatment comes, and you can tell us how that's working for you, because I hope it's less than 10 years, but I like your optimism of the whole thing and from your perspective of it. Yeah, you've been a great guest to have on, Callum. So thanks a lot for being here, taking some time out of your day off and spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate the conversation. I know you're an open book. If anyone wants to try to reach out, I've got a pretty unique name down here in San Diego. Please just feel free to reach out, get involved at the San Diego chapter, or just you want some 2 cents. I'm a willing participant. But yeah, all the best to you, Tim. Good luck with the what, can you remind me the name of the
See,
the
it's
podcast I'm now a part
right,
of?
right. FSH Straight Talk. That's what they
Straight Talk.
call it. Yeah, and I think that's what we did here, right?
Yeah, this is really good.
We just hit right to it.
I'm gonna be subscribing on my I'm a Spotify guy, so I'll make sure
Likewise.
I
Yeah.
follow, and I'll be
Appreciate that. Appreciate
yeah.
that. Tell
Best
all
of
your
luck out
friends.
there.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
Will
Callum.
do.
Thanks for
All
joining
right.
us. All
Well,
right,
thanks,
take care.
Tim. Take
Yep.
it easy. Bye-bye.
That is Callum Arras. He's out in San Diego area. Love talking to him. He talks about me having a nice radio voice. I really have to say, if this seat ever needed to be replaced with someone else, I would put him on the list. I think he's intelligent, great voice. I think for radio, I think it would be a lot of fun to have go through these episodes, and we're gonna bring in these great guests. I don't want to take away the fact that they are why I sit in the chair and have the interviews. It's not about me. I like adding my 2 cents here and there, but really, I don't want to take the spotlight away from what these great people have to bring to now what's called FSH Straight Talk. So, one of the takeaways I got, there's like keywords, and people have asked me this. I get emails from time to time, and sometimes, it's kind of a somewhat common question. Like, Tim, like, what are you jotting down? Like, I'm sure they're wondering, don't you already have the questions down? Like, what are you writing down? It's almost like keywords or things that I don't want to forget, or something that kind of sticks out for me. And I kind of jot things down, or I'll circle a word, and one of the last things he was talking about was like willpower. It's like this willpower. And to me, like the first word that came to my mind after I heard him say willpower was decision. I firmly believe that as you walk through your day, as you walk through your life, one day at a time, one moment at a time, there's decisions upon decisions that are made, right? Go left or right, you know, do this or do that, and so forth. Get up or not. And for me, it's a conscious decision every morning to swing my legs to my right and set them on the ground out of bed and go, when I rise up, I'm not getting, I'm gonna go all the way through this day, give it everything I can, despite the fact this is going to be or could be. I never want to say it will because it not always is, and set up the negativity immediately from square one of that day. But making the conscious choice of what, regardless of what's put in front of me, I have to keep going. I have to keep going. There's some momentum is my friend. And to me, that is a sense of willpower, the power to go through it. So, I would still love to try to take my dog for walks. I can walk. I don't know how long it is. It's somewhat far for some, somewhat short for many. But my dog loves it. Time to kind of think. It's kind of one of those walks where you kind of clear your mind and think, try to do those often as I can, physically can, but it does take a lot out of me to do that. And I have to always be conscious of what path and what direction I'm going to go. Is there too many hills? Is it windy out? All those kind of things. It's just going to make it more difficult. And then the willpower kicks in because I've just created excuses why I shouldn't walk the dog or say, forget it today. Going back to putting your feet on the ground when I first start in the morning or whatever your morning looks like when you start, you make those choices. So for me, getting up, getting going, do I walk my dog or not? And then a million other choices throughout your day. And willpower maybe has a piece of it. Decisions for sure. It's so hard to know that you have to make the decision to do that, even though maybe it hurts or you don't want to, you want to do with the pain, etc. And heck, sometimes, or a lot of us, we don't have to do anything and we're in pain. You'll have asked me, what does it feel like? For me, the only thing I can tell people is like the pain of the muscle aching is like if you ran like a mile and like after that feeling, what that feels like for like this able-bodied runner type person. But let's say you haven't ran for like a year and you go bust out a mile as fast as you can. Well, what do you think that feels like to your shins, to your legs? That's what it's like to me. And I don't know what chemical key in my brain sometimes tries to like lock it out or distraction or whatever, but it's hard. And I feel for everyone that has to tackle that because it's not easy and worse. And there's worse things to deal with the disease. So what I loved about Callum's conversation was that the willpower, the fact that he brings his science to the table, his knowledge of the disease, he's put that to work and doing his part is awesome. And of course, anytime we mention Amy Becker is also great. Which leads me to the final thought of the show is check out your local chapters. If you're in the San Diego area, please get in touch with Amy Becker. She's a phenomenal superstar in the FSHD world, FSHD Society world, has that local chapter. Find one near you. There's even one here in Wisconsin that's not really super operating, but always looking for a new leader. But it is there. All the way from my neck of the woods to California and every other corner, find one. Also, Wellness Hour, Care Partner, early onset, parents, roundtables, women in wellness. There's so many other groups, young professionals, feeling fit with FSHD. A lot of things you can find. All visit FSHDSociety.org. Yes, this podcast still is brought to you by the FSHD Society. Thank you for their support and everything they do to keep this show running. I'll bid you all farewell to the next episode. Take care. Keep on keeping on, folks. We'll talk to you later. You've been listening to FSHD Straight Talk with Tim Hollenback.